Welcome to Truth Be Told About Going Wild. I'm your host, Robert Hensley, and this is the podcast inspired by the principles of personal rewilding. Now, every now and then, I get called out for something that I've said, and I'm okay with that, right? Because knowledge is power, and it's important to learn things correctly, right? And for a long time, I've heard, and I know that other people have also heard, a mistaken quote. We'll call it a quote, that trauma changes our DNA. That's why generational trauma is an inherited trait. And here's the thing, right, is that turns out it's a little harder to rewrite our genetic code than just something bad, incredibly bad happening to us, right? Instead, it's something that we need to look at called epigenetics, right? Big word, epigenetics. And this is how this works. So, and this is a great analogy that I read, so I'm going to share it with you, is that if we look at our genetic code, our DNA, right? Our DNA is the library that contains every book, every piece of information that is needed to make us us, right? And when something bad, incredibly bad, or incredibly good happens, there's a librarian that opens a book. Each of those books is our response, right, to those really good or really bad things. That librarian is epigenetics. Okay? The issue with epigenetics, not that it's an issue, they're just a little lazy as a librarian, right? So even though they maybe opened a book for our great-great-great-great-grandfather, they never close the book. The book just stays open so that then when his library is passed to his next generation, all of the same books are already open. That's how we inherit those particular trauma responses and certain traits, right, that have become very familiar to us along genetic lines, right? So we start to think then, okay, so if we've got this lazy librarian who's not closing the books, right, where all of this stuff is just passing down from generation to generation, like, we're, screwed from the get, right? Wrong. Here's the good news, right? So even though epigenetics is leaving these books open, that does not mean that they have to stay open forever, right? When each one of us makes a conscious choice or decision to experience something differently or do something differently in response to trauma or great accomplishment, or if we go into therapy, or if we're using different modalities of therapy to change those responses, we are closing those books. We may be opening new ones, right? So, when we read about people who are like, oh, I healed my generational trauma, or I stopped a cycle that started with my family, but now I realize that I've started something different. That's why, right? Because as we close books that were open to our ancestors, we are opening books of our own, right? And so we can consciously help to change not our genetics, right? We're not changing our genetics. We're not rewriting the genetic code. Our DNA does not work that way, but we are helping epigenetics, right? We're helping the librarians to open and close books and change the way that we inherit traumatic response, right? So that's the good news. But I just wanted to acknowledge that that is something that I have said in the past that was incorrect, and that I have been schooled politely, and I really appreciated that, and had an opportunity to learn more so that I can share that with you. So, thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, there are 3 opportunities each week for new content from the Truth Be Told family of podcasts on the Club Paranormal channel on YouTube. Tony Sweet with the original Truth Be Told every Friday, Bonnie Burkhardt on Wednesdays with Truth Be Told Transformations, and of course, yours truly with Truth Be Told about going wild every Monday. And all of those shows go live on their respective days at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern. And if you'd like to know more about what's happening with Robert Hensley Nature Reconnect, my personal rewilding business, please feel free to visit the website, www.rhnatureconnect.com. We've got some new things happening this year. There's now an online community, Personal Rewilding with Robert Hensley on Patreon. There are 2 tiers of subscription there. One is free and one is an exclusive membership that is a paid membership. With more exclusive content and things like that. And you can find that at patreon.com/CW/Robert Hensley Nature Reconnect, or just go to Patreon and search Personal Rewilding with Robert Hensley. And also we have a wonderful winter reflection rewilding workshop happening here in the Laurel Highlands of Pennsylvania. It's a 1-day retreat, Saturday, March 14th. From 10:30 to 5:30, and that is all about realigning ourselves with the seasons, taking advantage of the reflective and introspective nature of the winter season, and how we can create a softer transition for ourselves from winter to spring to really set ourselves up for success with the progression of the seasons. So if you're interested in that, tickets for that are on Eventbrite. You can simply Google Winter Reflection Rewilding Workshop and it pops right up. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to email me. I would love to hear from you. And you can contact me via my website. Again, that's www.rhnatureconnect.com. And until next time.